In the middle of a stormy night in August 1975, thousands of people in central China went to sleep believing they were safe. The rain had been heavy for days, but storms were not unusual in this region. People were used to water rising, rivers swelling, and warnings that usually passed without turning into anything catastrophic. There was no sense that anything different was about to happen. No clear signal that this night would become one of the deadliest disaster events in recorded history. And yet, while entire communities were sleeping, something far beyond normal flooding was already in motion, building silently upstream in ways almost no one fully understood. By the time the danger became visible, it was no longer something that could be stopped. Water does not wait for permission. It does not slow down for preparation. It moves with a force that becomes more dangerous the longer it is ignored. That night, the rainfall feeding the rivers and reservoirs of the region reached levels that pushed every system beyond what it was designed to handle. What had begun as a natural storm was turning into something far more severe, not because of a single failure, but because multiple limits were being exceeded at the same time. And somewhere within that growing pressure, a structure built to protect millions of people was approaching a point it was never meant to reach. The Banqiao Dam had been constructed with a clear purpose: to control flooding and protect the communities living downstream. For years, it had done exactly that. It stood as a symbol of safety in a region that had experienced devastating floods in the past. Entire towns had developed under the assumption that the dam represented a barrier between life and destruction. When people looked at it, they saw protection, not risk. That sense of security was so strong that it shaped how communities expanded, how farms were built, and how people planned their futures. But systems like this carry a hidden truth. Their success depends on conditions staying within limits that are often forgotten over time. And during that storm, those limits were being pushed further than anyone had anticipated. As the rainfall intensified, reservoirs began rising at a dangerous pace. Engineers monitoring the situation were no longer dealing with normal flood control challenges. They were dealing with an environment where water was arriving faster than it could be safely managed. Release systems that were meant to reduce pressure were not enough to keep up with the volume coming in. Every hour made the situation more unstable. The dam was still standing, still functioning, still holding back the water, but the balance between control and failure was becoming thinner with each passing moment. The most alarming part was not just the rising water itself, but the realization that even with awareness of the situation, there were physical and operational limits to how much could be done. What made the situation even more dangerous was not simply the storm, but the combination of multiple failures across an interconnected system. Banqiao was not an isolated structure. It was part of a larger network of dams and reservoirs designed to manage water flow across the region. When one system becomes overwhelmed, the pressure does not disappear, it shifts. And during that night, as rainfall continued without relief, the entire network began to lose stability. Small failures started to cascade into larger ones. The infrastructure that was meant to provide control was gradually becoming part of a much larger and more uncontrollable problem. At some point during the night, the system crossed a threshold that could no longer be reversed. The dam was no longer simply under pressure. It was approaching structural failure. When it finally gave way, the collapse did not happen slowly or partially. It happened with sudden force. A massive volume of water, held back for years, was released in an instant. What followed was not a normal flood. It was a wave of destruction moving with a speed and intensity that left almost no time for reaction. Villages that were still asleep were hit before they even understood what had changed. Darkness, combined with the speed of the flood, made escape nearly impossible for many. As the water moved downstream, the scale of the disaster began to expand far beyond what any single location could contain. Entire communities were affected within minutes. Roads disappeared under rising water. Communication lines failed. Rescue efforts, even if mobilized immediately, would have struggled to reach many of the affected areas in time. The disaster was not confined to one point of failure. It spread across regions, multiplying as other connected structures and systems were overwhelmed. What had started as a structural collapse became a regional catastrophe that unfolded across an enormous area in a very short period of time. In the aftermath, the true scale of what had happened became difficult to fully comprehend. Estimates of the human cost remain staggering, with tens of thousands of lives lost in the immediate flooding and many more affected in the following weeks due to displacement, lack of resources, and disease. Entire communities were erased from the landscape, not just physically, but in terms of the lives and histories that had existed there. before the disaster. Yet despite its scale, the event remained relatively unknown outside of the region for many years, overshadowed by other global events of the time. What makes the Banqiao Dam failure so significant is not only the destruction it caused, but the questions it leaves behind. The storm itself was extraordinary, but disasters of this magnitude rarely come from a single cause. They emerge from a combination of natural forces, human design limitations, and moments where systems are pushed beyond what they were expected to handle. The uncomfortable truth is that the dam was not built to fail. It was built to protect, and yet under conditions that exceeded its design assumptions, protection itself became part of the collapse. In the end, the most haunting aspect of the Banqiao disaster is not just the scale of what was lost, but the realization that everything happened within systems that were meant to prevent exactly this kind of outcome. A structure built to protect millions became the center of one of the deadliest disasters in modern history. And it serves as a reminder that in moments of extreme pressure, even the most trusted systems can reach limits that no one fully expects until it is already too late.